Meera Sharma and Karan Malhotra never imagined that their secret world would ignite a tragedy that shook an entire town. When Meera, the quiet daughter of a strict Indian family, fell into a hidden relationship with her father's powerful boss, Karan, their stolen moments began a chain of events no one could stop. What started as a private escape soon turned into a dangerous secret, and when a single discovery exposed everything, Meera's father, Raghav Sharma, descended into a darkness that blindsided his own family. In a home built on rules, pride, and silence, one hidden relationship became the spark that led to betrayal, desperation, and an unthinkable crime that would change their lives forever. Life in the quiet town outside Pune moved slowly, almost rhythmically, as if nothing dramatic could ever disturb its calm surface. The Sharma family lived in a modest two-story house at the end of a narrow lane lined with flowering trees. Neighbors often described them as disciplined and traditional, following strict routines that rarely changed. Raghav Sharma, the head of the family, worked as a senior accountant in a well-known company owned by a respected businessman. He carried himself with seriousness and believed strongly in reputation. His world revolved around order, obedience, and the belief that his family must never bring shame to his name. His wife, Sunita, maintained the home with quiet dedication, and their two children grew up under firm rules. Their daughter, Meera Sharma, appeared to be the perfect example of everything her father valued. She woke up early, studied hard, and stayed away from anything that might draw unnecessary attention. At college, she was known as polite and focused, someone who blended into the background without effort. To the outside world, Meera lived an uncomplicated life. But beneath the calm image she showed everyone, she carried a different version of herself, one filled with curiosity, dreams, and a longing for a life beyond her family's strict expectations. Her secret life began in small steps. It started with noticing tiny things outside her family's world: music she listened to in private, classes she attended without mentioning, and thoughts she kept carefully hidden. The real change came when she briefly met Karan Malhotra, her father's boss, during a visit to the company for a college assignment. Karan was older, confident, well-spoken, and successful. Something about his presence made her feel seen in a way no one else ever had. Their connection built slowly, first through harmless encounters and later through secret meetings arranged far from anyone who knew her. For the first time, Meera felt like she was living for herself rather than fulfilling expectations. Her world expanded, filled with moments she kept locked away from her family. She convinced herself she could balance both lives without consequences, believing she was careful enough to stay unnoticed. Every step she took in secrecy, however, brought her closer to a line she didn't realize she was crossing. At home, nothing seemed unusual. Her father remained busy with work, and her mother assumed Meera's longer college hours came from academic pressure. Arav, her younger brother, focused on his studies and hobbies, never questioning why Meera spent more time outside. The days passed quietly, and Meera felt confident that her secret was safe. But the walls between her two lives were thinner than she imagined. A misplaced phone, a small photograph, or a moment of carelessness could expose everything she had tried so hard to hide. The secret relationship she guarded so closely carried a weight she didn't fully understand, and its discovery would not only change her future, but shake the foundation of her entire family. In a home built on strict values, even the smallest hidden truth could cause destruction. Meera's secret was far from small, and it waited silently for the moment it would break into the open and begin the tragedy that no one in the Sharma family saw coming. Arav had never been the type to pry into other people's belongings, especially not his sister's. But that afternoon, he urgently needed to send an important college file, and his own phone was out of battery. Meera had left her phone on the living room table before rushing out to get ready for class. Believing it was harmless, Arav picked it up, planning only to use it for a few minutes. His intention was simple, but what happened next silently shifted the fate of their entire family. As Arav searched for the file he needed, he tapped into the gallery without thinking much. The images appeared in rows and thumbnails, most of them ordinary, college notes, class assignments, screenshots of quotes. But then he saw something that didn't belong among the rest. A photograph showed Meera standing close to a man he recognized from his father's company events. The image would have meant nothing if not for the unmistakable closeness between them. Arav froze, his breath stuck in his throat as he opened more pictures, each one revealing a different moment shared by the same pair. He tried to convince himself that he was misunderstanding what he saw, but the expressions, the body language, the setting, none of it could be explained away. Confusion turned into fear, and fear grew into panic. Their father worked directly under this man. The family's reputation and stability depended heavily on that job. Arav's mind spun as he imagined the consequences. He believed that even the hint of such a relationship could destroy their father's career and bring humiliation to their conservative family. His hands trembled as he locked the phone and placed it exactly where Meera had left it. But the images stayed burned in his memory. Arav tried to focus on his assignment, but the worry refused to let him rest. He knew he couldn't ignore something so serious, yet he feared what would happen if he brought it up. Hours passed, and the weight of the secret grew heavier. By evening, he felt cornered by his own thoughts. He didn't want to betray Meera, but he also feared the storm that would erupt if their father found out from someone else. Eventually, with his heart pounding, Arav approached his father in the privacy of his room. He hesitated, uncertain, but the pressure inside him felt unbearable. In a moment of weakness and fear, he revealed what he had seen. The words struck Raghav like a blow. He demanded to see the images for himself, and once he did, something shifted in him. The shock was immediate, but the deeper emotions, anger, humiliation, betrayal, spread slowly like poison. The realization that the man involved was his own employer intensified every emotion. Raghav felt his pride crumble. He had built his entire life on strict rules, respectability, and the belief that his children would follow the path he set for them. Now his daughter had stepped into a world he considered forbidden, and with someone he saw as untouchable. In the hours that followed, the house remained quiet, but the silence was thick and strange. Arav kept replaying the moment he exposed the truth, wondering whether he had made the worst mistake of his life. Raghav, meanwhile, sat alone, consumed by thoughts darker than anything he had imagined for his family. Without anyone realizing it, the discovery had opened a door that could no longer be closed. The atmosphere inside the Sharma home changed almost overnight. Raghav no longer moved with the calm confidence he once carried. Instead, he drifted through the house with a heavy silence that unsettled everyone. His footsteps became slower, his expression sharper, and his presence cold enough to make even simple moments feel uncomfortable. Sunita sensed something was wrong, but her questions were met with distant nods or distracted gestures. She assumed he was stressed from work, unaware that something far more dangerous was growing inside him. Meera noticed the tension too, though she couldn't pinpoint why her father's mood had shifted so suddenly. She tried to continue her routine as usual, attending college and studying in her room, but the uneasy feeling followed her everywhere. There were moments when she caught her father watching her with a strange intensity, his eyes filled with emotions she couldn't read. She pushed the thought aside, believing it was just her imagination, never considering that the secret she had guarded so carefully had already been exposed. Raghav spent his nights awake, replaying the photographs Arav had shown him. The betrayal cut deeply, not only because Meera had kept something hidden, but because the man involved stood above him at work. The idea crushed his pride. He feared the whispers that would spread if anyone found out. His mind twisted the situation into something unbearable, convincing him that his family's honor was hanging by a thread, and only he could protect it. His anger grew quietly but steadily, becoming a shadow that followed him everywhere. While Meera prepared for her classes, Raghav secretly tracked her schedule. His suspicion pushed him to observe her movements more carefully. One afternoon, unable to hold back the urge, he followed her after she left college. He kept a distance, hidden behind passing vehicles and crowded streets. When Meera reached a quiet cafe on the outskirts of town and met with Karen, the last trace of doubt vanished. Seeing them together confirmed everything. The sight ignited a storm inside him that he could no longer control. Instead of confronting them, Raghav retreated into isolation. His mind shifted from shock to planning. He believed he had lost authority over his daughter, and the idea terrified him. To regain control, he convinced himself he needed to take drastic action. Every thought he had revolved around restoring his name, erasing the shame he believed had been placed on him. These ideas grew stronger each day, shaping his intentions into something irreversible. Arav watched his father closely, sensing the darkness creeping into him. He regretted showing the photos, but he lacked the courage to speak up. He felt trapped between fear of his father and guilt over Meera's secret. Soon, Raghav began involving him in tasks that seemed harmless at first, checking Meera's whereabouts, watching her phone habits, noticing her comings and goings. Each request slowly pulled Arav deeper into the tension, until he realized he was part of something he couldn't escape from. The house no longer felt like a home. It felt like a place waiting for something to break. Meera continued her routine, unaware that every step she took was being watched, judged, and interpreted by a father whose emotions had spiraled far beyond reason. The distance between them grew wider with each passing day, and the silence that filled the rooms hid a danger she never imagined. The family was drifting toward disaster, pulled by a force that none of them could stop. The day Raghav chose to act began like any other, which made its outcome even more haunting. The sun was warm, the streets were busy, and the Sharma home appeared calm from the outside. Meera woke early to finish a few assignments, unaware that her father had been awake hours before her, sitting alone in the dark, planning every step of what he believed had to be done. His mind had crossed the point of return. He felt certain that the only way to protect his family's honor was to remove the source of what he saw as disgrace. Arav noticed his father's unusual stillness throughout the day. There was something hollow in his expression, as if Raghav had detached himself from everything familiar. Arav wanted to ask what was happening, but the weight of fear kept him silent. He could sense something coming, something heavy and irreversible, but he didn't have the courage to interfere. By evening, Raghav told Meera they needed to visit a relative outside town to deliver important documents. The request seemed simple, and Meera didn't question it. She assumed it was a family errand, one of the many things they routinely did. She grabbed her bag and joined them in the car. Arav sat in the back seat, tense and restless, while Meera glanced at the passing houses, thinking only about her upcoming exams and the message she planned to send later that night. The farther they drove from town, the quieter the roads became. The familiar city lights faded, replaced by open fields and long stretches of unused land. The air inside the car grew heavy, though no one said anything. Meera began to feel uneasy, sensing something strange about the direction and distance. The place they were heading to didn't match any relative's home she knew. Raghav remained focused on the road, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. His thoughts were cold and fixed, each one pushing him deeper into the belief that he was doing the right thing. Arav kept glancing at Meera through the mirror, wanting to warn her, wanting to break the silence, but fear held him like a chain around his chest. The car eventually came to a stop near a deserted canal, surrounded by tall grass and broken stone paths. The air was still, and the only sounds were distant insects and the low hum of the engine cooling down. Meera stepped out slowly, confused by the emptiness around them. She looked at her father, expecting an explanation, but his eyes held nothing familiar. What happened next unfolded quickly and without emotion. Raghav carried out what he had been planning, driven by a belief that had consumed him completely. Meera's life ended in that isolated place, and the quiet night swallowed the final moments without a trace. Arav stood frozen, unable to move, his mind blank with shock and terror. He felt himself breaking inside, but his body refused to react. When it was over, Raghav acted with disturbing calm. He ensured no evidence remained, no objects left behind, no signs pointing to what had happened. Meera's body disappeared into the dark water, carried by the silent current that hid everything beneath its surface. The night felt endless as father and son returned to the car. The drive home was colder than anything Arav had ever felt. He stared out the window, unable to understand how the world outside could still look normal when his entire life had shattered. Raghav remained silent, steady, almost expressionless, as if he had not just destroyed the very person he swore to protect. They reached home quietly, changed their clothes, and locked the door behind them. By morning, the house looked the same, but something inside it had been permanently broken. The warmth of family routine had vanished, replaced by a chilling emptiness only the two of them could feel. The truth now lived between them like a shadow, one that would not disappear no matter how hard they tried to bury it. The next morning began with the same quiet routine, but beneath the surface everything had changed. The absence of Meera was immediately noticeable. Her room remained untouched, her books neatly arranged, and her backpack resting where she had left it the night before. Sunita assumed she had left early for college, unaware of the nightmare that had unfolded while the rest of the world slept peacefully. Raghav behaved as if nothing was unusual, moving through the house with controlled calm. Arav struggled to mirror this calm but found it nearly impossible. His hands shook when he poured water, his thoughts raced uncontrollably, and every sound made him flinch. Later in the day, Meera's college called to report that she had not attended any classes. Concern grew quickly because she had never missed a full day without informing someone. When Sunita heard the news, fear replaced confusion. She contacted her relatives, checking every possible route Meera might have taken. Nothing made sense. Raghav offered explanations meant to sound reasonable, but they lacked warmth and conviction. Arav's silence deepened the worry. The missing person report was filed soon after, setting off a chain of events that neither Raghav nor Arav were prepared to face. News of Meera's disappearance reached Karan Malhotra almost immediately. He had grown used to hearing from her regularly, even in the smallest ways. The sudden silence concerned him. When he checked his phone, he noticed something strange. A draft email Meera had begun writing the previous evening, never sent. It spoke of her intention to end the relationship because she wanted to rebuild trust with her family. This message tightened the knot in his chest. It contradicted any idea that she had willingly run away or cut contact. Feeling certain something was wrong, he walked into the police station and filed a separate complaint, insisting that her disappearance needed urgent investigation. Detectives began their work by interviewing the family. They paid close attention to Raghav's controlled expressions and Arav's tense posture. Something about the father and son felt out of place. Their answers were straightforward but lacked emotional depth. Detectives had handled enough cases to recognize when someone was hiding more than stress. When they checked the family's phone records and cell tower locations, they discovered that both Raghav's and Arav's phones had been near an isolated canal on the previous night, the same night Meera vanished. The discovery raised immediate suspicion. Officers returned for another round of questioning. This time, the pressure was heavier, the questions sharper. Arav's composure began to crumble. His guilt, fear, and trauma collided inside him like a storm he could no longer contain. He broke down, confessing everything in a trembling rush. He revealed the truth about the photographs, his father's rage, the drive to the canal, and the moment that had changed their lives forever. His voice cracked most painfully when he mentioned the unsent message Meera had written, a message showing she had planned to choose her family over her secret relationship. The revelation stunned the investigators. The tragedy was deeper than they expected, twisted with fear, pride, and misunderstanding. Officers rushed to the canal and recovered Meera's body, confirming her fate. Raghav was arrested, still convinced he had done what was necessary, unable to grasp the enormity of what he had destroyed. Arav, though treated differently due to his age and forced involvement, carried a burden that would follow him for life. When the truth spread, the community stood in shock. A father had mistaken control for protection, pride for honor, and fear for righteousness. In the end, nothing had been saved, only shattered. The final twist was the most heartbreaking. Meera had been ready to return to her family, hoping to rebuild trust, unaware that her father had made a choice that removed every possibility of her future.